When we first met, I just gotten this new app called Tinder. And I reached out and I saw Josh. And I was like, hey, that looks like a guy that might look like he wants to play music. And so then I was like, let's play music. And so he Tindered me back and we started a band, and most of our songs are written about that experience.
It was a weird first date.
I met this guy. I was reacquainted with him at a festival, as I am with every festival.
Hey man,
Tyler, are you?
He's famous. This guy's famous.
Are you in the band?
Right now.
Are you in the band? 20 Pafoni? Or is it 20?
20. Yeah, the Pafonies.
The Pafonies. Yeah, we've never been arrested.
Yeah, we actually met in jail.
Yeah, I actually met 50 in jail. He wanted to go in on this project with us, and we were just like, dude, we don't have time for you and your whole like getting shot thing. It's just us two.
How much of your song Heathens was inspired by your own experiences, and how much of it came directly from the movie Suicide Squad?
I think most of it was, well, the video is a very accurate portrayal of kind of how we met. And that's actually, the movie Suicide Squad was made after true events of us meeting in a prison and playing music together in prison. So they, at the end, you know how like in movies you'll see like based on a true story or this is dedicated to this. It's more or less a documentary, and at the end it's cool because our song plays and then they're like, based on true events, this movie is dedicated to Josh and Tyler.
And that you can say is the true story of how you met. Will you tell me that right now on record?
Yeah, no, absolutely, 100% true. No, how we really met. So Josh and I were in prison.
I was a guard though.
Yeah.
And like they tell you not to become friends with the inmates because it's just not
Especially
smart.
guys who did what I did.
Yeah, it was really bad.
Is loitering, a lot of loitering.
At a mall.
I was told to stop loitering many times.
And I was the one who arrested him in the first place, so.
How did you guys meet?
That's a good question. It's actually a pretty good story. There was one time where I was thrown into prison. Just it was like a short-term prison sentence. I stole something from a grocery store, and I'm put in like my own cell. And right next to that is like this big, huge guy, tattoos all over his body, and then on the other side of him is Tyler. He was thrown in for murder. So he was in for a little while, and anyway, this guy in between us noticed that I was like hitting stuff on the walls, and he's kind of like playing the piano on the walls. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but he's like, hey, you guys should meet and like be in a band. He didn't sing ever. He's a great singer, but he mostly did air piano.
You can't sing in prison.
No. So he introduced us, and we became great friends, and we decided that we should definitely start a band. Start out as like an air band because you can't have instruments.
Not really a lot of electricity in your cell either.
No, yeah, there's not a ton of electricity. Definitely no pianos.
Yeah, and most of the songs that you hear us play are about prison, actually.
The hard life.
Thanks for asking.
What's the other story that you told me?
Oh, actually what really happened was we were on a train. We didn't know each other, but the train wrecked and we were the only two survivors. And we were crawling out of the rubbish and we thought to ourselves, like, dude, we're going to start a band.
Yeah.
So then we did.
Right next to each other. We were on the opposite sides of the train when we were traveling.
But
we ended up right next to each other.
By the time it wrecked, it was such a bad wreck.
It basically collapsed and folded on top of
it.
itself.
It was a train sandwich, and we were right there in the middle of that sandwich, but we were unharmed.
Unscathed.
Yeah. Other than I got hit really hard on my face.
Yeah.
And that's why I can't really grow a lot of facial hair like you can.
I got a huge like scar on my arm, and that's really what actually this is from. It's like a burn.
Yeah, so that's how we met. The real story of how we met, we were on a train and it wrecked, and everybody died except for us. We thought, wow, hey, I'm Tyler, he said I'm Josh, he said I play the drums. I was like, let's start a band. And pretty much every song that we've written so far has been about how we met.
You guys kind of formed the band because you were friends before the band actually formed. What was that kind of process?
well, what I did is I came up with a test of yes or no questions, and I told Josh that I'd pass this test out to everyone, and whoever scored the highest was going to be in the band. What I didn't tell him is that I only gave him the test. Gave him the test, and there were answers. Like, what were some of the questions? You know,
how many times a day do you fall asleep on your bicycle?
Yeah, yes or no questions.
Yeah.
Yes or no.
And it was yes, I do.
Yeah, yes, you do. all
Many
the time.
times.
And then it's just answers like that. Where I was like, that's the guy I need in my band.
Yeah.
Guy who falls asleep on his bicycle. Is that what he said? Bicycle?
Yeah.
How do you fall asleep on your bicycle, by the way?
Do you guys recall how you met originally?
Yeah, it's a great story. It really defines our band.
Yeah.
Tell 'em.
So we're playing kickball. So we went to the same local pool.
Yeah.
And we're playing kickball, and it was well known that Tyler and I were the best kickball players, like at the whole pool.
Yeah, we both kind of rose up as like the premier players.
Yeah, but we didn't really know each other. It was just like, oh, okay, well, we're on rest break because you can't swim for 20 minutes or whatever.
Right.
So we just play with all the other athletes of the pool. And there was one day.
One day we're all kind of came.
Yeah.
We stayed away from each other, because he was good at it, and I was good at it. We didn't want to step on each other's toes. But then one day.
There's one day that Tyler kicked a ball. So hard, it went right over my head. I was in the outfield, into the neighbor's yard, who had a dog, but it actually just caught the ball and just popped it.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was so amazing that I went up to Tyler and I was just, dude, that was so incredible. And I think we may have hugged at that moment, and because we got passionate about it.
Yeah. And then I think we just were looking at each other hey, let's start a band.
Yeah.
And so that's how it happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Josh and I were both working at a train stop, which is odd because you see the same person, you kind of develop a bond with the people that you work around, correct? Because you're encountering struggle and difficulty, and people are annoying, and but you get to bond over how frustrating it is. And when we were working together at a train shop, we were is that what it's called?
Train shop?
Yeah.
I don't
train
think
station.
So, but
Continue.
The train shop was at the train station where you go and buy
You
souvenirs
go.
of train keychains
That's
and
what I was
stuff.
trying to say. We worked at the souvenir shop, and we encountered so many frustrating and annoying people that came in and wanted to buy little tiny trains, and we're just we don't have those. We sold out again. So frustrating. And so Josh and I were hey man, I'm frustrated. He's me too. And we were let's start a band. Yeah. So most of these songs are about souvenir shops.
And every song on the album features one of those whistles, those wooden whistles that sound like a train. Somewhere in the song, just listen for them. They all.
I hated those things.
Yeah.
How did you actually meet?
Did you write this? It's kind of a long story. But it's boring.
Well, just tell them. It's at the mall.
Yeah. So we were both working on starting up separate YouTube channels.
Yeah.
And we both had similar ideas to go and do pranking videos online. And we would prank people. And so
I worked at Annie Ann's.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, you were working at, was it Hollister?
Yeah.
And so whenever you were on break to get lunch,
I always came over to.
You always swung by, and I was always this isn't lunch, this is a snack.
Yeah.
And you
but
were
to me it was, because I ate 6, 7.
A lot of pretzels.
Yeah. Yeah, we kind of would say hi a lot.
I knew he was starting a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
It was mostly how to fold clothes properly.
Yeah.
He was just cranking those videos out all the time. I remember being really, I don't know,
intimidated by how many videos you were able to release.
Really?
Yeah, and all I was doing was like pretzel folding strategy.
Yeah. Which I'm still.
But I only
impressed.
Thank you.
Like they look.
Thank you.
Really tough.
Yeah, I only released like 2 videos.
Well, I feel like there's a lot of the different type of folding.
Yeah.
Clothes, but a pretzel just like it's like kind of the same classic pretzel look.
Yeah, but there's many variations of. See, what I love about this is you guys think that we are crunched for time because we have a show tonight.
I mean, there's hours to go.
We're going to go to our room and sit around and wait. So we'd much rather be up here talking about a story that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So, and then we decided to start a band.
Yeah.
There you go.
And then I deleted all my YouTube videos.
Yeah, me too.
I think we all know how to fold a shirt.
How did we form the band? Josh and I both worked at a store that made chairs, and I just wasn't very good at it. He was the guy at the chair shop that was making such great chairs, and they were always so solid, and so I looked up to him a lot. And when I couldn't get the chairs to work, I used the sticks of the chairs and just kind of like, remember, like drums. I would just kind of like hit them. Josh heard me doing that, and and then he told me, he's like, I'm a drummer. I was like, no way. I was like, dude, let's screw this this whole chair idea and let's go start a band. So that's how we met, and we've been playing music ever since.
One question is, how did you guys meet? That's an interesting question.
It's a good story.
Yeah. So one day I walked into, we both grew up here in Columbus, Ohio, and I was in Columbus, and I wanted my first tattoo. And so I walked into a tattoo shop, and Tyler was the first person I saw in there. He was working. I found out later that he was it was his first day, and he was like, and he had basically just learned how to tattoo, but had a lot of confidence. And, I felt like this is probably going to be the guy who's going to be my first tattoo. And I had a really cool idea. And for my, on my leg. And, so I told him the idea, and he sketched something up. And when you get a tattoo, it's, you kind of draw it out, and it's, and it's like kind of it's a reference to work off of. And a lot of times they'll place it on the area where you're going to get tattooed, and then they'll pull off the sheet, and it kind of leaves a little area where you're going to, the tattoo artist draws. And the idea, it was pretty complex. I thought.
Well, tell them when you first came in. First off, I don't know if I told you this, but I was hired that day.
That day. So this was your first.
Yeah, like I knew you knew that I was new, but not that new. It was that day. And when you showed me that tattoo that you wanted me to draw, I knew that we kind of sketched it out on that paper, and then scanned it, and then we put it on your skin and kind of like moistened it so that it would stick on there. And then I was like, there you go, man. And you were like, wait, aren't you supposed to like use a needle and stuff? And I'd forgotten that that's what I thought. You just needed to put the paper on there, and that was a tattoo. Come to find out, I was just giving people temporary tattoos.
Oh, yeah.
And so what happened? Like when you came in the next day, right?
Yeah. So the next day I was like, hey, the tattoo turned out great. It was really awesome. I love it. I took a shower that night, and it was gone. I mean, it was halfway gone. There was still
gone.
There was a little bit of it, but barely.
It just poofed.
Yeah, it poofed away, like a cheese poof. And so he was like, I figured it out. I figured out what I did wrong, and I don't think you even really explained to me what you did wrong. So I still didn't know. I was just like, okay, something weird happened, because I don't think this is supposed to happen. So anyway,
we go and he redoes the stencil. This time uses a needle, and I was like, this one hurts way more than the one you gave me yesterday. But now
you were like, stop, do the other one again.
Yeah.
So I just gave you a temporary tattoo, and
but the final product ended up looking like this. It's hard to. That's what he did.
Can I just say, I don't know why. So when I did the T, dude, I keep it up there. I want people to hear this. When I did the T, I was like, I don't know if I went like hard enough, and so I went over it again, and that's why the T is like so much thicker at the top than everything else. Dude, that's the worst tattoo I've ever seen. I'm so sorry.
Hey man, I'm proud of it. I like it, and it's how we met, you know?
Yeah. Oh, when did we start getting into music?
Yeah. I was kind of a late bloomer, if you will, for lack of a better phrase. I didn't start really diving into music till I was like 16 or 17, and it was a little. But Josh was really young. He was just a little sprout when a little bean sprout when he started playing drums. Right? You started playing drums at 3 months, right?
So yeah, I got my first drum set at the age of 3 months, and played my first solo at 6 months.
Yep. That was nasty.
Yeah.
I was there for that.
Yeah, that was.
Even though you're 6 months older than me.
Well, yeah, your mom came to the show.
Yeah, she told me about. I was like, you know how moms will like put headphones up to their bellies when they're pregnant.
Remember when she went into labor that night?
That night during your solo,
and
actually.
then came back.
Yeah, and that's when we started the band.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a crazy story.
Yeah. That's how we met.
Yeah.
None of us would be here today if it weren't for your local staff and security, so please give it up for them as well now. Little fun fact, I actually used to work at a music venue as security. I remember I kicked a few people out for underage drinking. I couldn't escort them out myself, I wasn't large enough, so I found a couple of larger security guys who worked with me. I said, that guy right there, he needs to go. And they picked him up. His shoe fell off in the process. And what I did is I took his shoe, and as he was laying on the ground outside, I threw the shoe at him and I said, and stay out.
I never came back.
And that's how Josh and I met. Would you please give it up for my very good friend and yours, Josh, down on the drums over here now.
Good question.
I was working at a power plant, and I was the guy that was in charge of making sure all of the workers kept on working. So I was kind of like a supervisor, if you will. And then all of a sudden one day, corporate sends in this kind of like a new supervisor. We were supposed to, me and this new supervisor were supposed to kind of like do like a co-headline type thing with the supervising, and it was Josh. And for the first like 3 weeks of the job, I just hated his guts. But then I realized, like, man, you know, he's a cool dude. And I noticed he had really good rhythm. When he walked, he would always walk to the beat of the music that was playing. We'd always be playing music through our halls at our
Like the power plant.
Power plant. I forgot what the name of what I was doing.
Yeah, the power plant.
And then one day he was, and the day that I knew, like, this is the guy, like, I want to be in a band with for the rest of my life, he was like, dude, let's fire everyone and just get a bunch of hamsters to, like, do the, like, their thing.
Mm-hmm. Cut back on costs, and they're more fun.
Yeah, and they smell great.
Yeah.
So then most of our songs are about that time in our life.
When people ask you how you met and how the whole bromance thing came together, there's a different story.
No, there's only one story.
There's one.
All right, give me the one story.
I was working at a fast food restaurant, and I was working the drive-thru, and this guy comes up and he's just like, yesterday I came through here
and I ordered fries, but you guys gave me onion rings, and I was like, listen, dude. At this point, I was pretty upset because people just treat you like trash when you work at a fast food restaurant. And I was like, dude, listen, I don't have time for this. And then he stopped me, and he was like, no, I just want to let you know that, like, I forgive you. And I was like, wow. Here's a guy who went out of his way to tell me, like, hey, you know what? I appreciate what you do, who you are. Onion rings aren't that big of a deal. Yeah. And I was like, do you play music? And he was like, yeah, I play the drums. And then ever since then, we were just like, well, let's start a band.
And the rest is history.
I had my drums in the car at the time, actually, and I waited for him to get done with work.
Right.
And he was like, "Hey, we're closed. There's only one. We can only set up in like the kind of refrigerated area,
Right.
but that was where we first kind of like wrote most of the main portion of songs."
Yeah, it was really loud in there. Yeah. We live drums in a very small metal place.
And now to this day, I still just get onion rings.
You know, I remember when you ordered it because I was like, who just gets onion
an order
rings?
of onion rings? I know. I was just really kind of.
Who's driving by
right
the establishment is like, you know what? I could go for some onion or some rings of onion right now.
I love it.
We lie every time people ask us how we met. Because we try to make something up each time. That's a pretty
big
new.
lie. Really? So how'd you guys meet?
Well, I'll tell you the real story. So I was working at a grocery store.
Breaking news.
Yeah, and I was the bagger, and
he's lying. He's a bad liar at that.
I'm kidding. Josh was the bagger. Okay. I switched
That was
it up.
my passion as a kid. I had to give up my dreams to play in a band.
How did you two meet?
I was working at an alligator farm.
Okay.
It was just kind of something that like I always thought was interesting since I was a kid, and so I'm like kind of like I just cleaned up after the alligators. I wasn't really allowed near them or anything. They didn't trust me.
Yeah.
But he came in with his family once they were on vacation, and this was like we were kids. So he tripped and fell. And it was kind of like near one of the cages. It wasn't like severe danger, but actually one of the alligators was out that day.
Oh, wow.
It was like out and kind of like roaming because it had just been fed. And so it starts to approach Tyler. And as I went to go try and save him, I fell in, and then he got up, and then he saved me. And at that point, we were just like, hey, what's your your digits and your information, just so we can keep in touch, because this was like a very bonding moment.
Yeah, of course.
The alligator was named Pilot.
That's a good name.
And so we were like, seems to be a lot of those in here. About 21 of them.
Well, that was the exact story that the radio guy told me you would tell. So
yeah, I mean that's the real one. If you look up on Wikipedia, that's the one that'll show up.
They're all fake. Oh, that's the one that's real.
Yeah, that's the real one.
How did you two meet?
We both were working for a car wash. I was a part of you have to spray the car down first, and then you can apply the soap. Our buddy Jeff was the guy who applied the soap, and then Josh was the one that actually dried everything after it was done. And he was always like, whoever is on the front of this line watering this car down is not getting it, putting enough water on it. That's why these cars aren't looking as good as they could look. And I went up to him and I was like, do you have a problem? And he was like, no, but you're not very good at your job. And I was like, well, I write songs. And he's like, well, I play the drums. And so we started a band. And we've really just been killing it ever since.
Yeah. And he waters that thing great now when we're at the car wash. Because it's kind of like, when you're in the shower, you just get in and soap your body down without...
You can't just put a bar of soap on your dry skin, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of what it was like. And so now, like yesterday at the car wash, the car was almost too wet. And I was like, all right, you don't need to go that crazy. Yeah. But, I guess that's kind of how we met.
So I worked at a hot air balloon store, which when you think hot air balloon, you don't think of a store like four walls but someone needs to make the basket, and that's not going to happen in the middle of the field. So I was working there, and I got a phone call from some guy, and he called me, and he's like, "Hey, I need 4 baskets pronto." And I was like, "No one says pronto anymore, dude." And he was like, "Whatever." And I was like, "What's your name?" He's like, "Josh." I was like, "Okay, come on in." And so I made him 4 baskets for his hot air balloon. And what'd you use those for?
Well, I was taking some friends and family out to on a different tour that I was on.
With a different band?
Yeah, it was a different band at the time, but they were no good. And
What was their name?
It was called the Lumineers. I'm kidding.
We cut that part out.
I don't know why that name came to mind first.
Oh. There's literally nothing we have against them either.
No,
Yeah.
literally, I like them.
They're good, yeah.
We were the basket heads, and that's why the baskets were important. Because we
That's
only used
appropriate.
one basket because there wasn't that many of us, but our friends and family were there. So anyway, yeah, I needed those. I already had the balloon.
Yeah.
He just made baskets, so I was like, yeah, I need.
I wasn't running what you would call a one-stop shop. I provide a part of the hot air balloon.
Mm-hmm. He was the basket specialty, so I needed those. I had everything else, and so I was so impressed with his quick service and the craftsmanship of that basket that I was like, do you know what? I think I'm kind of sick of this band, the Basket Heads, and it's not really that cool of music anyway. It's like kind of boring. I didn't even play the drums at that time. I didn't know how. I actually was just the photographer. So I was like, would you like to start a band? Because I think the drums would be fun, and you're really good at what you do. So that's when we started that day.
Wow. And now you have this amazing musical prowess that we bring to the table.
Yeah.
Because of our background.
Well, we actually, all of those are kind of made up.
Oh.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Yeah, those are made up. But the real story is we were both working at General Mills, and I specifically focused on Rice Krispie treats, and he specifically worked on Rice Krispies. We kind of had this feud, we just never really got along. And then one day, we found ourselves sitting at the same lunch table, which never happens. Rice Krispies over there, Rice Krispie treats over there. It was the only 2 seats available, and we had to sit next to each other. And I'm eating my Rice Krispie treats, and he's eating his Rice Krispies.
Yeah, as we did every day.
And we got to talking, and we realized, he's not that bad. We have a lot in common. He just adds, he adds milk, and I don't. I get that. My fingers get sticky, his don't. But there's something there. And then we came up with Rice Krispie Treats cereal, which if you've never had it before, you should go check it out. It's the Rice Krispie box, but it's purple, not blue. And it's actually the Rice Krispie Treats you put milk on. Josh and I invented that.
Yeah, that we came up with that, and I think the biggest takeaway is that if you find yourself disagreeing with somebody, then you can turn something really cool.
Just completely compromise all your values.
That's right.
So
and here we are today.
Meeting at the General Mills factory. That's incredible. What a beautiful story.
I don't even know if General Mills is Rice Krispies.
Yeah, well it is, because that's where we met.
Right.
Have you guys camped out for a show before?
Have you ever camped out for a show?
I never have.
Never once?
No.
No, I guess we haven't. Josh was putting on an art show. When
Okay.
we were.
So you were there to see his gallery, his exhibit.
Yeah. So before he started playing drums, he was a really good watercolorer, and he put on this art show downtown, and I was such a huge fan. I just couldn't wait for it. So 3 days before he opened up the show, I was out there, waiting first in line, only one in line.
I mean, Britney Spears does watercolor paints in her backyard, and she sells them for like $1 million a pop or 10,000 a pop or something.
Yeah, see, I sold mine for whatever I could get.
Okay.
So he would sometimes come and I'd be like, I'll give you $5 if you take this.
And I was like, absolutely, man. You're the best. You're the best I've ever seen. Yeah. What was that one that was your famous one you'd always do?
It was a salamander. but it had 3 legs, and
Trent. Right after that, we joined and we're like, hey, let's start a band, and we wrote a record about it. Trent the Salamander, 3-legged, $5.
It's a good one. We were both working at a Best Buy. He was in the electronics, and I was more in the the appliances.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So we really didn't interact much. Actually, the appliances versus the electronics section. Best Buy had this feud.
Right.
And then they came out with these smart toasters, and we were like, "Is this an electronic or is this an appliance?"
Yeah.
And it kind of was in the middle of our 2 areas. So when people would come in and ask about this smart toaster, we didn't know. It was kind of first to show up to answer the question to get to the sale. And
Did you get commission on that?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I mean that's why we fought so hard for this smart toaster. I still to this day it's a toaster, and Josh would argue well no, there's
an electronic.
It's just a computer chip in it.
Yeah.
So.
Do you still have one of these toasters, or did you ever purchase one yourself?
No, these things actually never worked.
It didn't toast your bread, and the electronic part of it didn't work either.
Yeah, so
you could watch it like a little movie.
So we had this big altercation over this particular customer who was kind of asking questions of both of us, and we were trying to answer as quick as possible first. And we actually weirded that person out so much they just left, and I was so mad at them. But then that was the beginning of a really great friendship.
How great.
Yeah.
When did you guys know that you were, going to make music together?
I think it was that day.
Yeah.
Was it that day?
Yeah. It's, later on our lunch break, we were in the lunchroom together.
Yeah.
And we usually try to avoid eye contact and try to, sit at opposite ends. But I think we kind of just, we looked at each other when we accidentally totally made eye contact, and then it was just like, hey man, your tactics of selling I've never thought about before, and I think that toaster, it is kind of an appliance.
It is.
And at that moment it was just like,
and I was like, no.
Let's all be friends.
It's way more a computer than an appliance. Yeah. And then that was the big deal.
Yeah, and then we quit that day. At that moment we walked out and we were like, let's go start a band, and we don't worry about
I love it.
Know how you guys met.
You're really new here, huh?
It was at a pet store.
Yeah. I was working there.
Yeah.
And you came in because you were trying to get
a hamster.
Trying to get a new hamster because what happened to your old one?
My old one.
Joe.
My old hamster. It had something wrong with his lung capacity was really bad. But when I got the wheel for him to run on, it actually killed him. And so he had an issue with being able to breathe correctly during cardio. So I was super bummed, actually, because it happened that day that I went in to go get a new one. We can look back and laugh now. But I was nearly in tears.
He was a broken man when he came into the pet store.
Yeah. And so Tyler was there working the front desk, and he saw that I was in pain. And he came over to me, and he was just like, "How can I help you?" And I told him the story about my hamster, and he guided me right to the new one. There was a light shining right on it, like it was like from the Lord.
Fresh 2009 edition.
Yeah. And I said, "Well, how can you tell me anything about this hamster's lungs?" And he was like, "I can guarantee that these are lungs of steel." And
they're very long lungs. As far as he had the lungs of a guinea pig.
And so from that moment, I was like,
You're not supposed to laugh when I say that because we've lived through this already.
No, I know, but looking back, it is fond memories, and that's where the laughter is coming from. So, but from that, I said this has been a pretty tough experience, and do you think I could get your number in case there's anything goes wrong with this hamster? I could get some technical support. And so I called him the next day, nothing was wrong, but I just wanted to say thanks again. And then Tyler was like, "Hey, would you want to start a band?" And then we did.
Josh, you want to tell how we met and everything? Yeah.
We were at a. Can you? Oh yay. Do I need a microphone?
He's a drummer. I don't know Mike.
I don't know what this is. What is this thing? I never get one of these.
I never get one of these.
We were at a shooting range. I was actually, because I didn't know him at the time, and we were both just kind of like next to each other firing, and I was like kind of like having a hard time like hitting the thing. It was my first time at a shooting range, and he was like hitting it right on the mark every single time, and I was just like, dude, can you show me some pointers? And he just kind of like came over and.
Oh, I got behind you, didn't I?
Yeah, it was like the kind of thing where he like put his arm around and like grabbed the gun, and like and it was awesome. And so then I tried it on my own, and I did it, and we like jumped in the air and high-fived, and we hugged.
And then we were like,
let's start a band together.
Yeah.
And so then I think we left directly from there, and went to the studio and made this past record.
That night, I put that sticker right there on that merch table was the night that I met Josh. I think I was here.
Yeah, and I actually.
And you were walking this way, and I think, what, did I say something to you, or you say something?
I said something to you. I was actually on my way out, and Tyler was here. I said, "Hey, I'm Josh. Nice to meet you. Great show." And
right.
And we kind of just began a conversation right here.
Yeah.
And then we kind of just made general plans to hang out at some point.
Yeah, we actually hung out. And shout outs to the girlfriends that we had that we're no longer with.
But you were a super
Obviously.
fan, right?
I
You were a
currently-
fan
I
going.
am.
You were a fan going to the show, which is just that's. I mean,
Yeah.
in
I mean,
Ohio,
yeah, but
right?
we didn't have.
Just-
I didn't have any fans. He was my only fan.
He was your fan, and now he's the only other one in the band.
I was a fan of him. I started following him before he started.
Oh, really?
following
You
me.
started stalking him out?
Yeah.
Oh, so you just kind of had this
I think
like
we just-
online bromance
We
going on
we
first?
stalked each other.
We
for
knew
a
who
little
each
bit.
other were in Columbus, and then when we finally met, then it was just like I think we already had like a level of like respect for each other and a kind of interest in like just similar interests, I guess.
Yeah.
And an interest in collaborating in some way, and it worked out that we're here now.
How did you guys meet each other?
Online.
Match.
MySpace.
He had similar taste in music, and I liked his profile picture.
Mhm.
And it was.
I called him out.
I
The rest
honestly
is
can't
history.
tell if you guys are kidding right now.
Yeah, we're totally joking.
We're kidding.
Okay.
Actually, the old drummer Chris, I was actually friends with him. I worked with him, and I remember he came into work one day and handed me this like burnt CD of like 4 songs. He's like, "This is my band," and not to be mean, but a lot of times I kind of just write off when people do that, and so I'm like, whatever, man. And you know, I listened to it and I loved it instantly, and I mean, I'm not trying to butter you up or anything. No, but I remember I talked to him. I was just like, dude, this is good. This is like fresh and unique music, and I like this a lot. And I went to go see them play a show at the Newport in Columbus, and met Tyler, and I think we kind of like connected instantly and just started hanging out and became friends pretty quickly. So
21 Pilots has been a band for like 2 years. So yeah, there were some lineup changes, and the other guys who were involved were still great friends. And actually, Chris, the drummer before Josh, is really good friends with Josh. And Josh and I had always talked about playing music together, and it's cool how it all worked out. And we were pretty much done with the album by the time all the lineup changes happened. So Josh just hopped on and added his little flair live, and we just go at it and give everything we got, 110%. And I've always hated when people use that phrase.
Do you recall the first time that you met each other?
that we met each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I remember the first time we ever met.
So for a while, I worked with a guy from Texas. We worked at a music store, and he had moved here. He didn't move here to Amsterdam, but he moved to Columbus, Ohio, where we're from Texas, for a girl, and he wanted to play music, and he gave me a demo of the CD of this band that he was playing with, and asked me to come to a show, and he was playing with this guy, and I remember I didn't normally listen. I don't normally throw in a CD that somebody gives to me, but I listened to it and I thought it was really good, and I went to the show, and I remember thinking that I liked everything about it except for one thing, which is that I wasn't playing with him, and we met afterwards. I just introduced myself and told Tyler that it was a great show, and I enjoyed it, and I think it was just a couple days later that we started hanging out and just became really good friends, and then it was like a year after that we started playing music together.
How'd you guys connect?
I was introduced to Josh through a mutual friend who I was playing music with at the time. They worked together at Guitar Center. About a year after that, things fell into place where I gave him a call. I was like, "Hey man, you wanna play? You wanna be in the band?" Because I was playing with another guy at the time, and the project wasn't really where it is now. And then Josh came on, and we put in some solid work for about a year and a half, and then things started picking up after that.